Welcome to the podcast. This week, Joseph Johnson here from UAC, hosting us always, continuing on this journey with Jed Smith and Dr. Peter Smolyanov, covering their book, Fringe Methodologies in High Performance and Health. And we've gone over some of the pillars of this high performance model. And now we've gotten into the psychological component. Last week we began that. This week we're going to go over one subset in this area of, if you want to call it, mental training, which is breathing techniques. And there's a lot of different ones that you hear of now. Wim Hof comes to mind. The Oxygen Advantage. Buteyko was another one that had been used in the former Soviet Union. But in a general sense, though, guys, when you're talking about breathing, how does that fit into the model? And then what are kind of like some of the application, I guess, or how does it work for the athlete? And so how could they educate themselves on it, number one? And then secondly, how does it fit into the model? Go right ahead, Jed.
Okay. Well, Joseph, and I know, Peter, this is very important for an athlete. And Peter is going to jump in with, he's got a lot of thoughts on this, especially as far as the shooter is concerned. But, breathing obviously is life. And if an athlete can control their breathing, they can control their anxiety, their stress levels. They can control their focus. They can control their performance. They can control their recovery between intense bouts of exercise. Breathing is such a big topic, Joseph. So we'll try to talk a little bit on it. But obviously, slowing your heart rate down is one very important component of just getting control of your breathing. We'll probably touch base on mindfulness and hypnosis in this podcast, just because breathing is so important to those. You had mentioned Wim Hof, his method for being able to, if people have not heard of Wim Hof, look him up. What he's doing is amazing, and it's really ancient practices that he took from India, China. Some of the practices are used in the martial arts in the breathing for chi and energy to heat. The Japanese call it ki, the Chinese call it chi. But breathing and centering and your energy, it's all very important. So I guess to kind of start out, I think just simple concepts athletes should know is just to slow down. The sooner an athlete can breathe through their nose, it relaxes, slows their heart rate down, relaxes their body, eliminates mental anxiety. Obviously, when people are nervous, they hyperventilate to just slow things down. With that, yoga breathing, deep breathing. There's, yoga breathing where you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Or just, mouth breathing. Bikram's yoga uses different styles of breathing to focus on your breathing. One thing I will also say is whenever your mind is wandering, if you think about your breathing, it's a tactic. When you think about your breathing, it brings you into the moment. It brings you into now. That's part of mindfulness, being aware of where you are right here, right now. Instead of thinking about the future or the past, if I focus on my breathing, it centers me. It brings me into right now, into this moment. So little tricks that athletes can use just right there before we kind of get into some big topics. Peter, what do you want to add before we kind of get into a couple bigger points?
Well, I want to kind of relate this to everybody. I think what you mentioned about using breathing for psychological regulation for self-control is critically important for everyone. It's used at schools now. Those teachers who are aware of these methods, they help students at a young age to self-regulate through deeper and slower breathing, and the yoga skills of breathing. So that's very important. Another aspect that's very important for amateur athletes and everyone is ability to utilize lungs fully. And yoga, again, Eastern methods have special exercises for this, and they're important for both sport and medicine. Utilizing upper, middle, and lower parts of your lungs is important. In medicine, the many methods use this to recover, to treat various lung condition, asthma, and many other breathing illnesses, by separating exercises that are for upper part, mid, and lower part of your lungs. If you look at many sports, especially endurance sport, they start with breathing exercises. These breathing exercises stay with athletes throughout their career. If you look at swimmers, all the interval training is assisted by special breathing exercises. You stop and you rest, and as you rest, you breathe in the water. You take a deep breath and you breathe in the water. So these are examples that should be used by everyone to train their breathing, to train to breathe properly, and to train their respiratory system to utilize all parts of your lungs, so that you use maximum capacity of your lungs. This is something that a lot of sport and medical programs are trying to do and borrow from ancient and Eastern fitness systems such as yoga, Qigong, and Tai Chi, and Qigong is the current most important fringe gymnastics. Qigong is the base of it is proper breathing. It's going to be here just like yoga is here. We're never gonna be able to fully organically and mentally get yoga and Qigong and Tai Chi, but these exercises that we take from it are very important, very useful for both athletes and everybody else. So for both health and for athletic performance.
And Peter, I liked the comments you made, and I think it's very important for athletes as far as breathing ability and recovery and just oxygen efficiency. The idea of full lung capacity in all areas of your torso in your breathing. One practice that's typically done for as a precursor to practicing mindfulness, which is a form of meditation or hypnosis or self-hypnosis, is typically diaphragmatic breathing. And diaphragmatic breathing, the individual will fill their lungs to full, or their stomach to full capacity, then fill their lungs, breathing in through the nose, and slowly breathe out through the mouth. Fill the stomach up, 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 chest up, 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 hold, and that's through the nose. Slowly bring it in through the nose, and then exhale through the mouth. And there's other forms, but taking full capacity breaths, 5 breaths before you engage in mindfulness, before you'd engage in like a self-hypnosis session or hypnosis session. Helps relax the individual. You would we talked about autogenic training. We spent a lot of time discussing autogenic training. An individual initially can start out using diaphragmatic breathing, then autogenic training, and then move yourself into mindfulness, where you could, and maybe it's, this is a point that I can, just discuss. One technique that helps an athlete tremendously, helps anyone, is just the practice of mindfulness meditation. And it dates back, thousands of years into India. But the concept is thinking about nothing. And it's kind of funny because you're going, well, when do you ever think about nothing? Very, very seldom do you ever think about nothing. Your mind is always active. But the crazy thing is in sport, we talked about the concept of mushin, the state of no mind, where you're just reacting. Well, this is what you're training your mind to do with mindfulness. If you were to relax yourself, with diaphragmatic breathing, autogenic training, and then you're in a place by yourself, quiet, in the dark, this is as simple as mindfulness can be. You close your eyes, you're completely relaxed. You square off a movie theater, like a blank movie theater screen in your brain. That's typically what one of the tactics that I teach the athletes, or that I use, a blank movie screen. Whatever comes up on that screen in your mind, acknowledge it, but don't try to analyze it. So let's say a tricycle comes up on the screen. You don't sit there and think, why am I thinking about a tricycle? You move on to the next, and then the next, and then the next. And so it's rapid fire, different objects, different colors, different things that come into your brain. You just acknowledge and move on so that it becomes free flow. So 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes twice a day. What it does is it teaches your mind to let go of things, to not dwell on things, so that you can much more easily react, and you can get into flow, because you're training your mind to be in flow and to be in the moment and not get hung up and stuck. And your mind, when you're in competition and you're not performing well, too many clouds are in the way, so you can't see. This is just clearing, clear, 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 clear. And then I make the right choices and I react. So mindfulness, it's a meditation. It relaxes. It helps you to release things that maybe in your subconscious that you're not aware that are a problem. It just pops up and you just can release and let go. So it's been a practice for, like I said, couple thousand years, but many athletes weren't being taught this, and maybe it's different, in the former Soviet Union when Peter was young, but in the United States, this would be very fringe mindfulness meditation practice for an athlete.
Yeah, there are a lot of breathing and methods and gadgets, devices that are on sale now, that are quite fringe for a lot of athletes. For example, you can buy a breathing mask now that restricts your breathing. Talking about coronavirus times, every mask that you're wearing is basically your. You can consider it as a lung training device. You are restricting the flow of oxygen. You're making it harder to breathe. It's good because you are training your respiratory system to work harder. So it's new. You can buy a mask that is very tight and massive mask that restricts your breathing, so that you can run and do other exercises with restricted flow of oxygen. So that when you compete and have a lot more oxygen. It's easier to breathe. You know, your performance is naturally enhanced. So in our book, we mention this mask, but we say that a good coach must be instructing you to use it properly. As only one of many other methods and devices that should be personally tailored to your objectives, to your health conditions, and to your performance objectives, right? Again, in the Soviet Union, wrestlers and other athletes have used many breathing restricting methods to train their lungs. For example, these masks, or different forms of masks, have been used in 70s and 80s. I remember, wrestlers in particular developed it. For some reason, this was quite popular among wrestlers, but they also used a rubber bands to wrap around their chest to make the chest
restricted, so you couldn't breathe, you couldn't expand your lungs.
Yeah, something that like a very tight wetsuit would do to you if you put it on. It's a compression, kind of a compression that you use on your upper part, and you compress your chest. So you train in these compressed conditions, and you do not allow your lungs to fully expand and take all the oxygen they can. So they have to work harder on breathing. They have to work harder with lack of oxygen. So it's some kind of a stimulation of higher altitude condition with
mechanical devices. Yeah, that's
less
crazy.
oxygen in the air. You're creating all types of difficulties for your lungs to train with. And this is now from high performance athletes. This now filters down to everybody. You can go on Amazon and buy these masks in the United States and anywhere else and use them. But again, it requires quite a lot of professional instruction to make sure it is tailored to your personal needs, to your physiological conditions, and to your performance objectives. And it's these philosophies of kind of under-oxygenation, over-oxygenation, hyperoxygenation, playing with restricting your oxygen and then allowing more oxygen in your lungs. This is now used by medical professionals in clinical settings to treat various asthma and other lung illnesses. Breathing that you described, it's for example to fully utilize lungs. Traditionally in Western Europe and in Eastern Europe too, your lungs have been opened by opening your chest and spreading your arms so that you fully expand your lungs and you can breathe in. This has been used as to help your lungs fully utilize their capacity. Some yoga methods do. They instruct the patients and beginner athletes or amateur athletes who are trying to get to high level of performance, and those who treat their illness to do the other way around. Breathe in a condition that actually squishes your lungs, like this. So try to breathe. Yeah, very simple exercise.
Yeah.
Shoulders down, shoulders in, kind of in, not expanding
Yeah.
your
Right.
chest, but bringing your chest down and restricting the expansion of your chest, and try to breathe in fully like this. Try. Very, very simple exercise.
No, I believe. Yeah, right.
So
You can't. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
so doing doing it the other way around, not helping your lungs and to fully exhale and to take maximum amount of oxygen, but doing that, actually restricting it and training your lungs to breathe in when they're compressed.
So they become more efficient.
Yeah, and again, there is nothing new about it. This comes from ancient yoga methods, and this comes what I just described. This simple exercise comes from yoga specialists from India who come to Western and Eastern European clinics and share their methods of treating and training. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is the fringe that's another fringe that's available for everyone. Particularly, it's very kind of very popular now, as during coronavirus we realized that
Right.
strength of your lungs is the key to your survival.
Right. And I mean, it's kind of it's another benefit, but like on the physical component, I mean, especially for team sports and things like this, endurance, with breathing, the ability to come down quickly off, from like when somebody's been really running really hard and they're able to come down and get relaxed a little much faster using some of the breathing techniques, if I'm understanding you guys correctly. So it's not just on the psychological side for focus or for anxiety or relaxation, but also for the physical components.
Yeah, there's a lot with breathing, and we can, in the next volume of the book, we can look at, obviously we need to continue looking at the different fringe practices involving breathing, because breathing is such a big component of, obviously, we need it for life, but it's the focus, the all around, it's just very important. So it's we need to put more in the next volume, and every volume that's just definitely a section in the psychology, but it's also for the, like Dr. Smolyanov just said, for the performance, for the physical performance. It's not only the psychological, you're using it for focus, you're using it for stress relief, you're using it for physical performance, energy, for power, your core, to generate any power. It's very important. So and
it's also a I don't want to say it's kind of like a precondition for a lot of psychological other techniques that you guys talk about in the book too. So
sprinters,
the breathing is
coming
going
out
to be
of
really
a starting
important.
block, an athlete bracing for in the game of football, an athlete that's going to lift with the Valsalva maneuver. It's just, breathing is so important in sport.
And in techniques like the other ones that you guys had discussed in the book, like how self-hypnosis and things like that.
Correct.
The breathing is a precondition.
And that's definitely a big part of hypnosis and self-hypnosis, for the relaxation, to get the individual to relax the conscious mind, to be able to, to put suggestions into the subconscious mind. And we do discuss self-hypnosis and hypnosis, which the Soviet Union was way out front on using hypnosis methods for years before we introduced that into the United States with the hypnotherapists that were part of the Soviet system to work with the athletes. And maybe Peter, you want to talk a little bit about hypnotherapy and hypnotherapists that maybe, I don't know if you had the opportunity to have that done to you as an athlete, but I'm sure it was around.
Yes, but it's again, it's top level that is again available here and used here by elite of the elite, and it costs a lot of money. I'm just thinking, what are breathing and breathing techniques that we can share with everyone that connect mind, physical, because the breathing is an indication, is a very easy, a very simple indication of your physical and mental condition. And one very simple thing that we were taught before we've been given real complicated, very hard to achieve kind of methods of control through breathing and exercise. We were given very, very simple things that are now becoming common for everybody. Like we have various ways of measuring what you need to do to in exercise. And a very simple way, I think I read it somewhere in British public health guidelines. The best way to individualize your exercise is to bring yourself to the condition of out of breath. So everybody can do this. You must be on the edge of hard to breathe, out of breath condition when you exercise. Going beyond is overtraining. Staying below is not going to make any difference to you. So breathing and this edge of being out of breath is an excellent indicator, an excellent criteria for everybody, whatever level you are, whether you are 80 plus recovering from surgery or cardiovascular operation, or whether you are a high-level athlete. In order to keep improving your level, you need to carefully bring yourself to the point of being out of breath. Out of breath, and the doctor will tell you how many times you need to be out of breath as you walk today. How many times you should be out of breath as you're doing your gymnastics and anything else. But this is an excellent way of individualizing all those mass and classic periodization programs that we're using.
And
so keeping out of breath and
well, and I was just going to comment a little bit on your discussion on hypnosis for the top and elite athletes. I was going to share a little story. I'm not sure if you remember the Georgian diver, that Sergei Chalashvili. I don't know if you remember the name. He died 1983, hitting his head on the platform. Famous diver. I think he was a silver medalist. Anyways, okay. Greg Louganis. You guys remember Greg Louganis, the American diver? So I believe Greg Louganis was around 16 years old. This Sergey was his hero. That was his idol of diver, platform diver. And he was at a world championship, and he was watching Sergey. He was behind him to get up on the platform. And Sergey hit the back of his head on the platform. Ouch. And died in front of him. So he was one of the best divers in the world, and it was who Greg Louganis looked up to. I think he was 16 years old at the time. This is a hypnosis story, a hypnotherapist story. So now fast forward, that was 1983. Now 1988, Greg Louganis is at the Olympics, and he hits his head the platform, and it almost kills him. So he's very scared. Obviously, they take him out of the pool, and they used a hypnotherapist that worked with him, back, behind, and he needed a perfect dive to be able to win the Olympics, to be the gold medalist. He needed to score a perfect dive. The dive he ended up doing was the dive that was very complicated that killed Sergey when he was young. And so the power of hypnotherapy, in that situation, that's again at an elite level and a high hypnotherapist, high level, that worked with him to overcome a fear that he had as a child right there in competition. And again, when Peter explained at the elite levels, at the top levels, yeah, you can see that thing that is being applied. Something for the masses that, Peter and I, our passion is to get this information out, is really how can we help and benefit the masses? Because like Peter said, it's very expensive. You're not going to be able to afford to pay someone to go to all your competitions unless you're at the top level. But for the masses, like he said, practicing diaphragmatic breathing, practicing autogenic training, you can lay in your bed by yourself. You can repeat to yourself, and anyone can pick up books on self-hypnosis, a simple book, but basically going through, explaining that you're very tired, doing a countdown, closing your eyes, looking at in your head at an imaginary ball or light that's moving slowly away, and doing a countdown and practicing it day in and day out, 10, 15 minutes before you go to bed. Eventually, if you practice enough, the athlete can get themselves in a self-hypnotic state, which is something that, I practiced years ago to be able to teach athletes, and many athletes can do this. So when you get in a self-hypnotic state, then the athlete can then visualize at a higher level, and it's like you're asleep. It's very good. And then the athlete can program what they want and see what they want and how they need to do it. So it can be done very economically with just practice. If an athlete were to pick up, and like I said, there's plenty of books on how to be able to do that, and it wouldn't cost an athlete much money at all, but it would be something that would be beneficial.
Yeah, and bringing yourself in certain states of mind are assisted with breathing.
Absolutely.
One tip, if it doesn't work, because some people say, I tried, it's not for me, it doesn't work. You need to try different things that assist your breathing, that assists your mental condition. One simple thing is stretching. Different types of stretching, and yoga stretching, when, for example, you lay on the back, put your legs up as high as possible, and then toes behind your head, right? So basically you
fold in half with your your feet overhead.
Yeah, you fold yourself in half. It's not just stretching, it's restriction of breathing.
Absolutely.
As you're restricting oxygen in your lungs, restricting oxygen into your brain, it's much easier to take yourself to a different mindset, different mental condition. If you can see, for some people it's very easy to fall asleep after you restrict breathing. After you stretch like this, fold in half and stretch and restrict your breathing, after this kind of stretching, for some people, it's actually it's followed by a very sleepy kind of condition, in which it's easier to manipulate with your mindset. It definitely calms you down, first of all. So you and if your coach, your participants, your entrusted athletes should try to experiment with different types of stretching combined with breathing that would just mechanically help them restrict their breathing, control their breathing. This is one very simple tip. Mm-hmm. Another tip is that we were taught from young age as athletes in our Moscow sports schools is based on this very basic principle, that the principles that you just outlined in the very beginning of our podcast, the continuity, the gradual progression. So no training session starts with very high out of pulse level and frequent breathing and deep breathing. You start very slow, and you never abruptly end any exercise, obviously, with very frequent full capacity breathing. You never stop, and you can see it on every corner of every town. Some jogger stops at the red light. Some continue to jog on the spot, but very often you see people running quite intensively and then stopping. So obviously, this is a very simple example of how everyone should be using correct breathing as a basic. You never abruptly stop. If you run, you need to turn into fast power walking, and then slowly bring your breathing, your breathing very slowly into norm. So that's another tip of effective breathing. Very slowly intensify your breathing, and very slowly bring it down from intense full capacity lung breathing to your normal rest breathing, together with your resting pulse must be going slow up to your high intensity training pulse, and then going very slow down. No abrupt no forcing your pulse, your heart to slow down. It must slow down gradually, naturally, by itself, together with your breathing. And your breathing is an indication of your pulse, of your heart rate slowing down gradually. So these are tips for everyone.
I think that's some good stuff there, Peter. I think we kind of covered kind of what we wanted to get through in this podcast. We kind of tied together breathing, how that is an integral part of pretty much everything that we do as an athlete, but then some tips as far as how it can be used for relaxation, mindfulness, for self-hypnosis, as far as relaxation techniques, recovery techniques, energy techniques. And it's something that we definitely want to touch more on when we go into volume 2, because there's a lot of tactics out there.
It's the interesting thing, and I guess this ties in well with the fringe ideas, that breathing techniques have a ton of application. It's not limited to just one component, like in the yoga sense or the relaxation sense. It's for performance. It's also used in wellness too. With people with asthma, we'll use different breathing techniques that could be beneficial for that, or for sleeping, or whatever the case may be. Some people have used it for controlling blood pressure. Different techniques for that as well. So it has great application across the board, and I appreciate you guys kind of elucidating the application to sport, that are relevant to the reader, things that they would be able to use in their everyday life to enhance their performance. or to enhance the use of psychological techniques that would also, eventually enhance their performance as well. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this. I think next time we're gonna go through a couple other of the psychological components of developing athletes. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll be talking to you guys real soon in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for taking the time to help us today.
Yep. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Joseph. Thank you, Jed.